I surrender to the Almighty, my mind, speech and body. Vanakkam, we are reading this book called as Thirukkural, written by Thiruvalluvar. This is a book on Aram, and it talks about how to align our lives with the order that is found in nature. The author shows us that marriage is one of the many ways to attain higher states of existence and ultimately reach Mukti or Moksha or liberation. We are so used to talking about Mukti and Moksha and liberation as things to be attained through meditation or yoga and all that, right? How can marriage be related to liberation and Mukti? Aren't these two directly opposite? Marriage is something that we associate with loving your family, spouse and children, earning money and raising kids, being with friends, celebrating the events and having fun. Whereas Mukti and liberation, they are serious topics and belong to the subject of God and all that. It seems to be so removed from the joys of marriage. Would we ever imagine that marriage is a pathway to Mukti? But here Valluvar says that it is a necessary first step towards Mukti. See, in this book, Valluvar is showing us how these two are related and how one leads to the other. He says that marriage is one of the many ways to reach higher states of existence and ultimately Mukti. In fact, that is the goal of marriage, he says. Valluvar says that only when someone has successfully enjoyed the pleasures of the attachments of married life can one be successful in their pursuit of higher goals. Normally we talk about Mukti or Moksha at the very end of our life, when all is over and it is too late to make any changes for the way we have lived with our spouse and children and the society. And at the very end, we start looking for the purpose of life. What is the use? At that point, it is quite possible that we might feel, oh, I wish I had done things differently. Maybe I should have done this like this. I wish someone had told me sooner about these things. I would have tried better and I would have lived a better life. I think that's not how our stories should end, right? That would be a disaster in my opinion. It would be nice if I could feel that I lived this life really well, that I thoroughly took in each and every moment, loved deeply, hurt deeply, felt the joy and the pain, the betrayal, recovered beautifully, found God, and hopefully pass on the lessons learned along the way to the people coming behind. So, to avoid a regretful ending to our lives, it would be to our advantage to know about these things while we are actively living our life, isn't it? What is love? What is Mukti? What is liberation? Liberation from what? Etc. It would be good to have some idea. So, I feel that reading this book now is really important. It would help us to live this life more meaningfully. So, what is the purpose of our life? The goal of this life seems to be to learn to love, that's all. Mukti or God, after all, is nothing but a space of love. This whole lifetime is there for us to practice that. It seems like such a simple thing to do, isn't it? Dogs know how to love and most of the animals know how to love. But we humans, we tend to lose sight of this simple goal in our daily drama of life and we seem to make a thorough mess. We hurt our loved ones and we say and do ugly things to each other. Sometimes we even do ugly things to our own children. So I feel that this book is a beautiful guide for us to remind us of our goals and to put us back on the right track. It shows us the way to learn to love through this system called as marriage. We learn to form attachments in our married life and we learn how to enjoy them and keep expanding that circle and to learn to love all of creation eventually. And this way we would grow mature in the path of love, says Valluvar. And when we learn to live like this, we will eventually feel fulfilled and we would want to find a bigger kind of happiness. And this book shows us a way to achieve that as well. And that way of life is called as Thuravaram. So, Illaram and Thuravaram are discussed in the first big section of the book called as the Arathu Paal. And this is followed by a section on the principles of administration of an empire. In our current times, we can apply these principles to the administration of a business. And then there is the last section on the principles of pleasure. So, these three sections are the three big sections of the book. They are called as the Arathu Paal, the Porut Paal and the Inbathu Paal respectively. And where are we in this book now? We are currently reading the commentaries given by an equally respected scholar called as Parimel Alagar. We entered the Arathu Paal and we finished the first chapter on God. And now we are at the second chapter called as Vaan Sirappu on rain. We finished the first 7 Kurals in this chapter. What did we learn in these 7 Kurals? In these 7 Kurals, we saw that rain is an expression of God's kindness, and that is why this chapter is placed after the chapter on God. Rain is considered as the amrita or the drink that gives immortality for life on earth, because as long as it rains, life can never be destroyed, and without rain, life cannot continue. Rain can cause hardships by creating a drought, and it can destroy many things. But after the season of drought, it always gives back whatever it took away in just the way it took away. Valluvar established clearly that rain is necessary for all of creation, from a tiny blade of grass to the mighty ocean. And by showing the need of rain for the tiniest and the mightiest in creation, Valluvar showed us the magnitude of the importance of rain. So that's what we saw in the 7 Kurals so far, and today we will see the Kural 18. The Kural goes like this. Sirappodu Poosanai sellathu vaanam Varakkumel vaanorkum eendu. The overall meaning of this Kural is, without rain, the temples cannot conduct their daily and annual rituals, and therefore the Devas will not get their food. So, in the absence of rain, even the celestial beings called Devas will suffer. Now, this Kural addresses many things that are new to us, things that we don't normally come across in our daily lives. Celestial beings called Devas, what are they? What food do they eat? What is the connection between temple rituals and the Devas? And what has rain got to do with any of these things? Why do we care about all of this anyway? What are they even talking about, right? We will see them one by one. I find it quite surprising that in this Kural, the author is talking about Devas as if it is a very common knowledge among humans that celestial beings called Devas exist, and that humans are well aware of their presence, and as if humans very well know the interdependent relationship that exists between humans and Devas. Whereas for a majority of us, these are topics that we would normally dismiss as unscientific, imaginary, esoteric and silly, right? We find it difficult to believe and accept things that cannot be perceived with our sense organs, isn't it? But interestingly, throughout Tamil literature, the ancient Tamils are writing about them. So before we can dismiss this idea, I would like to see what is it that they are trying to tell us. Our first question is, what are the Devas? Devas are intelligent, benevolent, celestial beings who exist in some other dimension, and it is possible for us humans to one day become a Deva in some birth. As you know, rebirth is widely acknowledged by many scholars in the Tamil culture. For example, an ancient renowned poet, namely Avvaiyar, writes a poem about how this healthy human form is a very rare life form, and it has taken us a very long time for us to get to this form. It seems we have gone through several forms before in order to get to the human form, and it is an even more uncommon occurrence to be born as an educated, healthy human, and an even rare occurrence to be an educated, healthy and a generous human. And Avvaiyar says that such a person will be shown the path to higher planes of existence. Another important poet called as Manika Vasagar, in his most important work called as Thiruvasagam, which is even today sung in the Hindu temples all over the world, he says that we go through various life forms before we can finish our journey. In his poem, he says, I was born as a grass, a worm, animal, bird, and so on, and then to the human form, to the Asura form and the Deva form, and I'm really tired of being born again and again. Won't you please liberate me from this cycle of rebirths, dear God? He says. So, all of these authors are talking about rebirths. They are all well respected scholars in the Tamil community even today. Their works are studied in schools and universities, and we have statues of these people and we hold them in very high respect. So, if people like Thiruvalluvar, Avvayar, Manikavasagar are talking about it, then I am beginning to think that we cannot ignore it completely. We are seeing the depth of the knowledge of these people, right? So, these people are telling us that Devas are one of the forms of life that we as the Uyir go through. And Devas exist in a different plane, and interestingly, there are only happy experiences for a Deva. The Thirukkural also talks about it. In fact, in this book, Thiruvalluvar shows us a way for human beings to live this life in a certain manner so that they can take birth as a Deva in the next birth. And we will get to that Kural eventually. So, the Hindu texts are telling us that there are many other forms of intelligence in creation, and what we can perceive with our sense organs is not the entirety of creation. And this human form is just one of the many forms that we have taken. And it looks like we will go through several other life forms in our journey towards our destination called as eendu or Mukti. So, Deva is one of the several life forms that we can assume along the way. So, yes, it does seem strange that we cannot see these Devas, but they are supposed to exist in some other dimension, and all these authors are talking about them. And here Valluvar says that rain is important for their survival too. So, the next question is, what is the relationship between humans and Devas? In creation, the survival of one is dependent on the other. That is how we are all interlinked. We see that the plants need the carbon dioxide and we need their oxygen for survival. This is nothing new. We see this kind of interdependency everywhere in creation. Otherwise, we will lose the connection that we have with everything else around us. You say nature has given us energy in our youth and wisdom in the old age. What is the use in that? If we had the energy and the wisdom together, then we can be more successful, isn't it? In our youth, we have the energy but not the wisdom, and in our old age we have a lot of wisdom but we lack the energy. There is no use in that also. But why is life like this? Doesn't the creator know that the better way to create would be to give both at the same time? Well, it looks like this is done so that the old people and the younger generation will live together and benefit from such an arrangement. The younger people need the guidance that comes with the experience of the old age, and the old people need the speed and the energy of the younger ones. So, to create a link between the two, this interdependency has been created, and that is why in most of the Hindu families, you will find that the older generation will live with the younger ones. Similarly, the Devas and the humans are also interlinked. Now, our ancestors are telling us that the Devas are intelligent beings who will grant us boons to humans. The Devas will answer our prayers, it seems, and in return, our job is to offer them food for their survival. How and where does this interaction of food happen? This seems like a transaction across dimensions, isn't it? How do we do this transaction? The answer is through the fire that is created in the rituals. You see, it is very common in the Hindu temples where on special occasions the priest will conduct a prayer ritual where a holy fire is created and food items and clothes are offered in the fire. In Tamil, this practice is called as Yagam, and all the food and the clothes will be put in the fire. This is called as Avirbhagam. So, what we are really doing in these rituals is that we are sending the food and the necessary things to the Devas, and in return we are asking for prosperity. Even though it is the Devas that grant us the boons, they need the stuff that we give them for their survival. Even in our homes, even today, we perform these rituals to create auspiciousness. For instance, when we start a new business or when we move to a new home, then we call the temple priest who will come to our house and he will perform these rituals. Typically, a fire will be created and the priest will chant the prayers, and at the end we will offer clothes and food and other things into the fire. Every year on the anniversary of the departed loved ones, we create this fire and offer food and other things to our ancestors too. Now I understand that this may sound like a bizarre practice. Even I don't really fully understand how it works. But even I perform these rituals in my house, and it looks like this is a way to offer food and clothes and other things to the Devas. I'm sure there will be plenty of questions about this. Keep them all on the one side. You will definitely find answers somewhere. So now moving forward, we now know what are the Devas and how the humans interact with them. Now we will come back to the Kural. In this Kural, Valluvar is saying that rain is necessary even for the survival of Devas. How? Two things are mentioned in this Kural. One is called as Sirappu and the other is called as Poosanai or Poojai in spoken Tamil. What are these? See, in the Hindu temples, usually there will be a god's statue made of stone, and every day the temple priest will chant the prayers and will offer flowers, fruits, etc. to the god. A lot of people like you and me, we can go to the temple and we can also offer the fruit and the flowers, and that will be offered to the god. And the priests have a strict method of worship and they will follow the rules and do the necessary protocols. So this is an everyday ritual, and this is called as Poojai in Tamil. Even in the Hindu homes, there is a practice of worshipping God in this manner. We offer flowers and light a lamp and say some simple prayers. These are normal everyday routines and they are called as Poojai or Nitya Poojai. Now, sometimes it is possible that some of the puja materials like a flower or a fruit or a coconut or sandalwood is not readily available to do the rituals in the temples for various reasons. So then they will try to manage with whatever is available at that time. So to compensate for these kind of minor errors, what the temples will do is, once a year the temples will organize a grand big puja to compensate for all the shortcomings that could have happened in the daily puja. And this once a year grand puja is called as Sirappu. Sirappu is a Tamil word, it means significant. And this once a year Sirappu is also called as Naimityam Puja. In both these pujas, the offerings will be made to the Devas through the fire. Now coming back to the Kural, Valluvar says that if there is no rain, then the temples will not be able to conduct the daily puja and the yearly Sirappu. Why? Because without rain, there won't be any growth of crops and people will struggle for their own well-being. There will be a reduction in the wealth for everyone. So no one will come to the temple to offer the food and flowers to the divine beings when they themselves are lacking, right? Very rarely one or two people will do that, that's all. So the daily puja won't happen and the special puja also won't happen. If both don't happen, then the Devas will go hungry. So the rain is essential even for the Devas to survive, says Thirukkural in this Kural. So that is the meaning of the Kural 18. Now in the 7 Kurals that we have seen so far, Valluvar told us that rain is important for all forms of life on the earth. Without rain, we will have hunger, we won't be able to grow food crops, sea creatures will also die, etc. etc. And we understand that life can come to a halt on the earth. And here in this Kural, Thirukkural says that rain is essential not only for the grass and the ocean, but it is essential even for the Devas. And to give us this information, he is writing this Kural. Now obviously, these are things that are not visible to us, and how much do we want to believe in them is up to each and every one of us. But this is what our ancestors are telling us, and I find that these are quite interesting even from an academic perspective. There is one more insight in this Kural which gives us a glimpse at the kind of values held by the Tamils, and we will see that in the next session. For now, I shall end here and I thank you all for listening. Nandri, Vanakkam.